Yo, chassis has arrived. AD team, carbon fibre, few purple goodies. Missing this top cover. It's got no discs and calipers, but we've got these instead. But I'm replacing those with the discs and calipers. Some 3D printed ones for the back here because they're larger size, and I've got the ears here for the rear body mount, so that's good. And most importantly, we've got the ESC holder and the rear case, which I wasn't sure if that was going to be in with the set. Also got the bumpers in there, a pair of Yokomo bumpers, and also the spring set from the RDX. So yeah, but don't have, oh, it's got the carbon fibre Reve servo rod. I don't have anything to mount the servo to the chassis deck, but apart from that, I think we're all good to go. Let's first things first, slap the diff in there, and yeah, try and find a way of mounting the servo. I'll tell a lie, just check through the bag. All of this stuff is just shock related. So we have rear bumper, Yokomo front bumper, and the mounting blocks for the servo. So that means there is no reason why I can't get this thing all up and running. So replaced the washers top and bottom on the front for the 1mm ones, so they're just like factory. Spaced out the tower with a 2mm. Changed all of these button heads for gold ones. Fitted my knuckle duster rear bumper, secured that and put the diff in there. That's all good. Ran out of screws on the bottom, but all of those ones are gold. I need to count how many I need from there. Gold ones, front bumper bottom part installed. Overdose HG3s fitted on the front, and also fitted the rear shocks as well. Need to find a couple of bolts for the rear, and then I can put the wheels on. Also need to install the front body post and the rear magnet mounts. I'm nearly done. A little bit more tinkering left to do, and a little bit of electrics to install, but we are pretty much there. Overdose front body mount installed, wheels on. Slight issue with the lock. I think I've got the servo round the wrong way, and so it needs to be more this way, sort of pointing in the opposite direction. Apart from that, rear end's all good. Front end, need to sort out the spring rate or the rebound, and it's like a old spacer in there that's missing, and under there, and the spacer in between the arm here is in the wrong place. It's there when it should be back here. And apart from that, pretty much ready to go. But we have a roller, so that's a good start. So moving on to look at sorting out the front end, and you can see here we've got a spacer in between the arm back here, whereas on the new chassis the spacer is here. So we need to undo this little grub screw, pull out the suspension pin and move the spacer from this side to this side. I will get some more purple spacers. At the moment I've run out, so we'll just have to use the standard plastic ones. Inside the rack somewhere there is also some spacers that are missing, so we'll look at replacing those once we've tackled the lower arms. So after playing around with the front alignment, you see that I had to put the washer in between the arm here rather than here, moving this arm forward because there was a clearance issue with this part of the new carbon fibre deck. With that being the case, that did mean that we had reduced caster because this arm was still in the same position. So I also swapped out the washer that should be at the front there and put it at the back of the arm here. So then both arms were moved a millimetre forward this way. In doing so, that created sort of bump steer on toe. So to correct that, I added an extra spacer underneath here. I've got a 2mm spacer under there rather than the 1mm to adjust for the active toe that was happening on the steering. With that all corrected, everything drives really nicely, and I've got very similar to stock front alignment. Currently running about 2 degrees toe out because I'd moved the arms forward. That made the front end toe in, so I fitted a pair of adjustable turnbuckles on the steering link so I could adjust for toe to get everything back into a decent alignment. And now I've got a really nice flat contact patch with the lead wheel, and the Ackerman you can see is pretty good, follows right the way there, and then we've got a little bit more angle with the lead wheel than the follow wheel, but that's ideal. So now I've moved on to shimming the front arms. So I've removed the shocks to make sure we can still see that everything's as loose and as free moving as possible. I've got a 1mm shim in there with a 0.2 shim in between it to get the least amount of play as possible, but still really free moving. Same on both sides. Now simply move the chassis over, and we can do the same for the bottom arm here. We're replacing the 1mm shim there, which you can just about see, and then we'll try various different amounts of 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.25 to get the least amount of play. See, there's a little bit of play there, so we'll try and get that a little bit less either side, and then we'll do the same for the rear also. You can see I've replaced these the washers there with a 1mm aluminium purple washer, also a 0.2mm shim just to take the most amount of slack out of the arms, but still leaving them nice and free moving. Also replaced all of the rest of the bolts on the underside with gold bolts. And now flipping the chassis back over again. You can see that I've replaced the countersunk washers and countersunk gold bolts along the reinforcing rails, and we can move back on to replacing washers in various places. There is a 1mm washer on the end of the slide rack there, and then also I've got a washer underneath the front arm on the hub right there, where the steering arm comes out and meets the end of the hub. I believe that was a 2 or a 2.5mm washer, so I'll replace that one as well next. So the last spacers on the front end have been placed here, where I've put a 2.5mm spacer, and then back here in the rack where there is a 1mm spacer. That is standard sized, and this one there was just a 1mm spacer here. I've increased it by 1.5 to put a 2.5mm spacer to adjust for the bump steer that I was getting, because I've had to change the lower and top arm spacers to move both the arms forward, and then added the turnbuckle to adjust the geometry. I had to do all this because of the carbon fibre deck. Now everything all is the standard geometry again, but because the steering rack didn't move but the arms did, I had to space out the pickup point to adjust for the bump steer. With the 2.5mm spacer there, we're now back to having very little bump steer, just like the factory box settings. You can see here as the front end moves up and down, we've got no side to side movement on the wheels, so we know we've got the right amount of spacer in the right place. Moving on to the rear end, we've replaced the 1mm spacer in here and in here, exactly the same for stock, but just purple and aluminium. And then finally the rear arms have been done as well. You can see there's still nice and loose, very little play. Got a 2.5mm spacer there, 2 5mm spacer, and then 2 3mm spacers, so totaling 8.5mm, and then an extra 0.2mm shim just to take up that slack there. I will go and order some 8mm 3M purple anodized spacers to put in here and here, just so then I don't have a stack of spacers and they can be put to one side to be used elsewhere. But apart from that, that's it. All of the arms are all shimmed, and we've got as little tolerance as possible. So now we're all ready to go for our next track session.